11 mysterious archaeological discoveries caught on camera. No one can explain. Welcome back to the latest video on the Ancient History channel. Today, we're about to embark on an exciting journey where every grain of sand and every fragment of brick could be hiding secrets that have remained unsolved for thousands of years. Get ready, because in this video, we will explore 11 of the most mysterious archaeological discoveries in the world. Moments captured on camera that left scientists stunned and viewers shivering in disbelief. Have you ever heard of the tiniest mummy in history? A tiny creature, less than 8 inches long, yet with such a sophisticated body structure that experts question whether it was even human. Then there's the nearly 3,000-year-old tomb of an ancient woman, discovered deep in the desert where bizarre artifacts were found. So unusual that no one dares claim they belong to any known civilization. But that's not even the scariest part. In China, archaeologists once opened a tomb with a deadly trap so lethal that a single misstep could have killed the entire excavation team. Who designed such a deadly mechanism? And how did it remain functional after being buried for thousands of years? These mysteries don't just challenge human curiosity, they force us to wonder, is there something beneath the earth that lies beyond human understanding, silently waiting to be discovered? So, what exactly are these discoveries? What secrets do they hold that even the world's top experts can't explain? Join me as we uncover each of these secrets in today's video. The tiny Pedro Mountain mummy, a 90-year mystery that keeps scientists on edge. When it comes to famous mummies around the world, surely everyone has heard of the tiny Pedro Mountain mummy, right? Many even believe that this mummy is evidence of a race of tiny people mentioned in ancient legends. Yet, others insist it was simply a mutated dwarf. And so, for generations, this story has remained a major mystery in archaeology, as no one has been able to explain the origin of this body. The story begins in the summer of 1934, in the Pedro Mountains of Wyoming. At that time, two gold prospectors, Cecil Main and Frank Carr, were roaming the mountains in search of fortune. After days of hard work without success, they stumbled upon a deep rock crevice that appeared to be a sealed ancient cave. True to their daring nature, the two decided to use explosives to open the way in. The blast echoed through the mountains, rocks flew everywhere, and before their eyes appeared a tiny cave entrance, just big enough for a person to duck and crawl through. Maine, braver of the two, squeezed inside. The cave was pitch dark, only about the size of a wardrobe, with a few signs that humans had once lived there. But there was no gold or treasure, much to their disappointment. As he was about to leave, Maine noticed something unusual resting on a ledge inside the cave. Moving closer, the flashlight revealed a tiny mummified figure, looking like an elderly man sitting in meditation, hands folded over the chest, legs neatly crossed, with a wrinkled face and an oddly frowning expression. The skin was dark brown, shriveled by the harsh, dry climate. The figure had a low forehead, large nose, big eyes, and a wide mouth, creating a look that was both lifelike and eerie. What stunned the two men most was its size. The entire body measured only about 8 inches tall and weighed less than 1 pound, so small that they doubted it was even human. Remarkably, even without fully understanding what they had found, the prospectors took it home, seeing it as a bizarre trophy of their expedition. 2 years later, the mummy was unexpectedly put on public display in Floyd Jones's pharmacy in the town of Métis. The owner cleverly placed it by the window to attract passers-by, and indeed, everyone stopped to look in curiosity. Floyd soon realized that the real gold was in the mummy itself. He charged admission, sold postcards featuring the mummy, and the name Pedro Mountain Mummy quickly spread across the region. Among the visitors was a teenage boy named Eugene Bashor, who became so fascinated by the story that he spent his entire life studying it. Thanks to this growing attention, researchers began to take the discovery seriously. X-rays of the mummy were taken, and the results shocked the scientific community. Inside the desiccated skin was a complete human skeleton, with a full set of vertebrae, rib cage, arms, and legs. But everything was incredibly tiny. This was not a model or a hoax, it was a real body. From there, numerous theories emerged. Some believed it was evidence of an ancient race of tiny people. Others argued it was a genetically mutated man, while anthropologist George Gill suggested it could have been an infant born with anencephaly, buried according to a special ritual. After years of fascination, the mummy was purchased by businessman Ivan Goodman, who displayed it at his car dealership as a unique marketing attraction. But around 1950, this precious artifact suddenly disappeared without a trace. Rumors circulated that Goodman was tricked while transporting it to New York, or that he secretly sold it to a private collector. Whatever the case, the Pedro Mountain mummy was never seen again. Even in 2005, a man named John Adolphi Syracuse in New York offered $10,000 for any information about the mummy, but 2 decades later, no clues have emerged. To this day, the mystery of the tiny Pedro Mountain mummy remains unsolved. Is it evidence of an unknown race of people, or simply a medical anomaly turned legend? While the question remains unanswered, one thing is clear. This tiny body has puzzled the world for nearly a century, and perhaps its secrets will remain buried forever beneath the sands of time. The 2,700-year-old saddle in the tomb of an ancient woman in Xinjiang, China. Can you imagine that nearly 3,000 years ago, in the harsh deserts of Xinjiang, China, a woman was buried with the world's oldest known saddle? At first it might sound ordinary, but as archaeologists excavated the Yanghai Cemetery, each layer of sand revealed a story that would astonish anyone interested in history. More than just an artifact, this saddle marks the origins of saddle making, a pivotal development in the history of horseback riding. In the tomb, the woman's body was remarkably well preserved, dressed in a leather coat, woolen pants, and short leather shoes. Beside her were familiar items from nomadic life, a ceramic cup, pieces of woven wool, but most striking was the leather saddle placed beneath her body, as if she were sitting on a horse, ready to gallop across the vast desert. The image evokes the vivid sight of ancient riders, though in this case, the rider was a woman. Upon closer study, experts discovered that the saddle structure is almost identical to modern saddles, with a cowhide covering and padding stuffed with deer and camel hair, both comfortable and sturdy, ensuring the rider's safety. Carbon dating determined the saddle's age to be between 727 and 396 BCE, placing it in the first 500 years of the first millennium BCE, a period when horseback riding began to spread in this region. Previously, people in the Altai Mountains had known how to use horse milk, but horse domestication and riding emerged later in the south, where Xinjiang is located. The discovery of multiple bridles and saddles in other Yanghai tombs indicates that horseback riding had become an integral part of daily life, and this saddle was designed not only for sitting, but also for comfort and safety on long journeys. What truly astonished archaeologists was that the saddle belonged to a woman. For centuries, horseback riding and combat had been considered men's work, but the Yanghai findings completely challenged that assumption. The woman in the tomb may have participated in hunting, traveling across the steppes, and even combat, proving that women in ancient nomadic societies played roles equal to men. Imagine over 2 millennia ago, amid golden sands and desert winds, a woman confidently mounted on a handcrafted saddle, her horse's hooves pounding as she conquered the challenges of nature and time. Doesn't that image feel heroic? It's fair to say that this saddle is more than just a tool. It is a living testament to human ingenuity and strength, opening the first chapter in the history of horseback riding. And now, as we look at this 2,700-year-old saddle, not only archaeologists, but anyone fascinated by history must wonder, was the woman in the tomb a warrior, a leader, or simply an ordinary woman who, nonetheless, carried the key to unlocking the mysteries of an entire era of horseback riding? This perhaps is the irresistible allure of archaeology. Each layer of earth, each artifact, each piece of leather tells a story, and the story of the Yanghai saddle is waiting for us to discover. The 6-million-year-old demon-faced fossil unearthed in a Florida riverbed. Have you ever imagined a massive creature with a twisted, monstrous face roaming the land we now call Florida? If not, here's something straight out of a horror movie, but real, right before the eyes of archaeologists. When a research team from the Florida Museum of Natural History dug along a dry riverbed, they didn't uncover ordinary rocks or shards of pottery. Instead, they discovered an ancient elephant graveyard, at the center of which lay a demon-faced beast known to experts as a gomphothere. These gomphotheres ruled this land around 6 million years ago, weighing between 4 and 5 tons, almost as much as a modern African elephant. But if you look closely, their faces resemble creatures straight from a horror film. Long tusks extending from the upper jaw, paired with shorter tusks from the lower jaw, curving frighteningly downward. It's hard to believe such colossal and bizarre creatures once walked the earth. What fascinated scientists most was that the gomphothere they found was intact, not broken or scattered. It leaned as if resting, with all its bones in place, almost as though it had been carefully buried by the hand of nature. This particular beast was a fully grown adult, standing about 7.9 feet tall at the shoulder, with a skull, including tusks, measuring over 9 feet long. In other words, this is the largest gomphothere ever discovered in the world. When fully grown, its body could reach 13 feet in length and weigh over 6 tons, a size that is truly awe-inspiring. You might wonder why so many gomphotheres, along with other elephant species, congregated in the Montbrook River area. Scientists have proposed an interesting hypothesis. Like modern elephants, elderly or weak individuals may have returned to familiar water sources to rest. Over thousands of years, floods gradually washed away the remains of other species, layering them on top of each other and creating a natural graveyard of stacked bones. This scenario, though seemingly simple, raises many questions. Why did so many different species gather in one place? Was it due to behavior or simply nature's random misfortune? The scene not only astonishes scientists but also allows us, observers from the modern era, to sense the power and mystery of nature. A 6-million-year-old beast, lying quietly in the riverbed, tells a story of a time when elephants and other giant creatures dominated Florida. It's hard to imagine that such enormous beings could be forgotten beneath layers of earth and sand, waiting to be uncovered by humans. Looking at the gomphothere's remains, we don't just see an ancient giant elephant, we see an unsolved mystery, a story of life, death, and time meticulously written by nature itself. Every bone, every tusk is a clue, a reminder that Earth's past holds far more astonishing secrets than we might imagine. So, what do you think brought these creatures together at Montbrook? Was it truly a natural graveyard, or does it hide secrets that scientists have yet to uncover? Share your thoughts by leaving a comment below. A mass grave of 380 skeletons from the Roman Empire. In the marshlands of Enge, located in the Illerup River Valley of Denmark, archaeologists have made a discovery that sends chills down the spine of the research community. A mass grave containing nearly 380 human skeletons, dating back to the 1st century CE. The number alone is enough to make anyone shiver. But what's even more mysterious is the story behind these bones. A story drenched in blood and war, tied to the northern expansion of the Roman Empire. Led by Dr. Mette Løvskjold of Aarhus University, the research team unearthed hundreds of human skeletons buried in the cold, wet mud. Most were adult males, aged roughly 40 to 60, yet mixed among them were small skeletons of children only 13 to 14 years old. Just imagine, in the midst of a brutal battlefield, even the youngest were swept into the merciless whirl of history. It's a horrifying thought. What left archaeologists truly haunted, however, were the signs of trauma on almost every skeleton. Cuts, fractures, and even shattered bones all tell the story of a bloody battle, where humans faced one another in desperate combat. The grim picture doesn't end there. Many skeletons also show evidence of animal gnawing, likely from foxes, dogs, or wolves. It seems that after falling, their bodies were left exposed, becoming prey for the harsh Nordic wilderness. Dr. Løvskjold suggests that many of these individuals were probably not professional warriors. They may have been farmers, blacksmiths, or ordinary villagers who were forced to pick up weapons when war struck. The wounds on the bones indicate chaos, a lack of tactical formation, and signs of a hastily assembled army with no formal training. They may have fought only to protect their tribe, their village, or simply to survive. Adding to the evidence, alongside the 380 skeletons, archaeologists also discovered ancient weapons such as swords, iron knives, axes, shield fragments, and even ceramic bowls, dog bones, pig bones, and livestock remains. All of this strongly suggests that this site was more than a burial ground. It is likely the remains of an actual battle. A battle between the mighty Roman Empire and ancient Germanic tribes fought over 2,000 years ago on what is now Danish soil. Experts believe the scale of this conflict may have been much larger than historical records indicate. It not only reshaped the power map of the time, but also deeply affected the lives of local communities, where everyone, from the elderly to children, was caught up in the storm of war. Doesn't it send a chill down your spine? A mass grave in the frozen north, hundreds of skeletons lying quietly under mud for over 2 millennia, still telling the tragic story of a chapter in human history. Time may pass, but discoveries like this remind us to ask ourselves, do we truly understand the past, or have we merely scratched the surface of the iceberg called history? A 6-month-old baby mummy frozen for 500 years under Greenland ice. In an ancient burial site deeply buried beneath Greenland's thick ice, where snow and ice cover more than 80% of the land, archaeologists have made a discovery that has stunned the world. 8 Inuit bodies, preserved almost perfectly for over 500 years. Among them, the most remarkable and heartbreaking is the mummy of a 6-month-old baby, frozen alongside their family. Greenland, also known as the Land of the Greenland, is the world's largest island, located between northern Europe and North America. Though covered in ice almost year-round, this land holds countless untold stories. This shocking discovery came from an ice burial dating back to around 1475, belonging to an Inuit family, a people who have lived in the harsh Arctic environment for centuries. According to the archaeological team, the first thing that stunned them when they uncovered the ice was the astonishing preservation of the bodies. Skin, nails, hair, even tattoo marks on the forehead, cheeks, and chin were clearly visible, as if the individuals had only passed away a few years ago. Imagine that. After half a millennium trapped under thick ice, the bodies still preserved every detail, a true miracle of nature. Among the 8 mummies, there were 6 adult women, 1 older child, and the 6-month-old baby. The baby's preserved face left scientists speechless. The tiny body, almost perfectly intact, eyes closed as if peacefully sleeping in the arms of its mother. From this, a haunting hypothesis has emerged. The baby may have been buried alive. According to ancient Inuit custom, if a mother died while her child was too young to survive on its own, the baby would be buried with her. The belief was that the mother's spirit needed her child to accompany her to prevent misfortune and ensure they could reunite in the afterlife. While this may sound cruel, in the harsh Arctic conditions of the time, where survival was always precarious, it was a deeply spiritual ritual. Beyond its human and cultural significance, this discovery holds enormous scientific value. Greenland's freezing climate has acted as a giant natural freezer, perfectly preserving artifacts for hundreds of years. While scientists had previously discovered other human and animal mummies, this 6-month-old baby is now recognized as the most perfectly preserved mummy ever found in North America. Currently, 4 of the 8 mummies have been transported to the National Museum of Greenland in Nuuk for display and research. The remaining bodies, including the tiny baby, are still being studied to gain deeper insights into the lives, culture, and beliefs of ancient Inuit people. Every hair, every piece of clothing, and even the tattoos on their skin tell a story of survival, faith, and familial bonds amid the brutal cold of the Arctic. If you ever have the chance to visit Greenland, make sure to stop by the museum in Nuuk to see these frozen witnesses firsthand. Every glance and every breath in front of the display glass reminds us that beneath the thick ice lies not just preserved bodies, but also history, memory, and stories that have never been fully told. The deathly sand trap in China's most treacherous tomb. Since ancient times, the Chinese have placed great importance on tomb culture, viewing it as the final home of the deceased. They believe that after leaving the mortal world, the human soul would enter another realm, a world that still required a life of abundance and comfort, just like in the living world. Therefore, tombs were not only burial sites, but also symbols of status, power, and spiritual belief. Emperors, officials, and nobles often spent their entire lives choosing the best feng shui location for their final resting place. The mountains had to be sturdy, rivers flowing gently, and the surroundings ideally filled with trees and life-giving water. Burial items were also carefully arranged. Civil officials would have brushes, ink, and sacred books. Military officials carried swords and spears. The wealthy and noble would be buried with piles of gold, silver, and jade. Yet, it was precisely this extravagance that became a tempting prize for grave robbers, people who would stop at nothing to plunder the treasures of the dead. As a result, the ancients devised all sorts of methods to protect tombs, even creating deadly traps designed to punish anyone who dared disturb the resting dead. One of the most famous and chilling examples is a tomb discovered in 1981 in Xinjiang City, Hubei Province, nicknamed China's most treacherous tomb. The story began when local workers digging foundations for construction unearthed a stone stele carved with ancient inscriptions. Sensing something unusual beneath the ground, they alerted the authorities, who immediately dispatched 5 archaeological experts to the site. Examining the feng shui and energy of the area, they suspected that the tomb's occupant was likely a powerful nobleman or military official. What surprised them, however, was that after hundreds of years, the tomb remained almost completely intact, showing no signs of being plundered. But as they dug deeper, a scene emerged that sent shivers down their spines. Numerous skeletons were stacked around the tomb, some in a crawling position, others lying on their backs as if buried alive. Experts estimated there were around 80 sets of remains from different periods, all sharing the same fate: death while attempting to break into this tomb. Upon examining the tomb's structure, the scientists discovered a horrifying secret. The walls and ceiling were not made of ordinary stone or earth, but entirely of fine, dry sand. Any small hole dug into it would cause the sand to pour down like a waterfall, sealing the entrance and suffocating intruders to death. Worse still, beneath the sand were numerous sharp stones, ready to pierce anyone who fell in. In other words, this was a self-activating trap, no mechanical device or poison required. All it took was human greed to trigger a death sentence. Throughout history, many grave robbers had literally buried themselves alive under this sand, which is why the tomb earned the folk name, the Killer Tomb. Many may wonder, if the tomb was so dangerous, how did archaeologists excavate it safely? The answer is that by 1981, the sand in the trap had long since settled over time, so the collapsing sand phenomenon no longer occurred. This allowed the team to safely access and open the tomb. Inside, they found priceless artifacts still intact, because for thousands of years, not a single grave robber had survived to take them. The tomb was dated to roughly 1,000 years old, and at the time, it represented a rare example of defensive architecture in ancient China. Unfortunately, despite fully excavating the site, experts could not find any stele or records revealing the tomb owner's identity. To this day, the true occupant of the deathly sand tomb remains a mystery. Yet one thing is certain: whoever lay here was undoubtedly a person of enormous power and influence, capable of commanding a trap so ingeniously terrifying, designed solely to protect their eternal rest. The mass grave of 227 children reveals one of history's most brutal rituals. In the region of Pampa La Cruz, Peru, once the center of the ancient Chimu civilization, archaeologists recently uncovered a discovery that stunned the world: the remains of 227 children aged 4 to 14 buried together in a mass grave. Even more horrifying, this was not a random death. It was part of a savage sacrificial ritual carried out more than 1,400 years ago. According to scientists, these innocent children were killed as part of the largest known ritual human sacrifice in history. They are believed to have been forced into a religious ceremony conducted by the Chimu Empire, a civilization that flourished long before the Inca. Ironically, the purpose of this horrifying ritual was to prevent natural disasters. At that time, the Chimu believed that El Niño, the extreme climate changes that caused floods, droughts, and crop failures, were the wrath of the gods. To appease these deities, religious leaders organized massive sacrifices, with the victims being innocent children. In their worldview, the sacrifice of children, symbols of innocence and purity, could bring salvation to the entire community. But to modern humans, this is seen as one of the darkest and most haunting chapters in human history. What makes this discovery even more chilling is that the 227 children grave was not the first sacrifice found at Pampa La Cruz. In 2018, archaeologists uncovered the remains of 56 children and 140 llamas, part of a similar ritual also intended to appease the gods. Yet this latest discovery dwarfs previous findings. 227 young lives were sacrificed at once, a scale unprecedented in the region. When excavated, experts noted that most of the skeletons were remarkably well preserved, with some still retaining skin, hair, and even glittering silver earrings. Such small details made the scene even more heart-wrenching. In the cold, dry soil, the children seemed to be sleeping, eyes closed, unaware that their deaths were part of a cruel game called a ritual sacrifice. For those unfamiliar, The Qin Empire was a sophisticated society with organization, art, and rich religious practices. Yet, their blind devotion to the gods led them into a spiral of superstition, where human lives were exchanged for divine favor. Thus, the story of the 227 children is not just an archaeological discovery, it is a bitter reminder of the cost of blind faith, when humans are willing to sacrifice their own kind to secure what they believe is the world's safety. Even 1,400 years later, the haunting presence of this mass grave remains. The small bodies pressed together beneath the earth tell the story of a merciless era, when children had no right to live and were chosen as offerings. Looking at the released archaeological images, anyone cannot help but feel both horrified and heartbroken. 227 children, 227 lives cut short before they could grow, were taken to save the world in the way adults believed was right. But was it truly worth it, when the cost was an entire childhood buried under the cold sands? What are your thoughts on this? The 1,300-year-old golden coffin that has never been opened. China, a nation with a history spanning thousands of years of imperial dynasties, is full of mysterious stories buried beneath layers of time. Thanks to archaeology, these secrets have gradually been revealed, with each ancient fragment pieced together to reconstruct the most authentic picture of the past. Among countless discoveries that have stunned the world, the golden coffin in Shanxi province is considered one of the strangest mysteries. As for more than 10 years since its discovery, experts have never dared to open it. The story began in 2008, when a group of workers was renovating Longquan Temple in Taiyuan City, Shanxi province. While digging the foundation, they unexpectedly unearthed an ancient tomb buried deep underground. Sensing the importance of the find, the workers immediately notified the local authorities. Soon after, a team of Chinese archaeologists was dispatched to examine the site, and what they found beneath the surface left the entire team astonished. The tomb was large and intricately constructed, reflecting that its occupant was likely a person of high social status. Upon opening the burial chamber, archaeologists discovered a series of 5 nested coffins, a rare burial practice in history. These 5 coffins were made from different materials: stone, wood, bronze, silver, and gold. The innermost coffin, the 5th layer, was the rare golden coffin in question, shining brilliantly in the dark earth, a sight so striking that anyone witnessing it would be awestruck. The golden coffin was exquisitely carved with intricate patterns in the Tang Dynasty style, one of the most magnificent periods in Chinese history. Experts concluded that the tomb's occupant was likely a member of the royal family or a high-ranking wealthy official, someone powerful enough to be buried in a solid gold coffin. Curious about its contents, the archaeologists carefully transported the coffin to a laboratory for study. However, when preparing to open it, they noticed a peculiar detail: a special red silk ribbon tied in a bow around the coffin. Experts believe this ribbon may hold spiritual significance, intended to seal the deceased's soul and protect the tomb's integrity. Of course, modern archaeologists hesitated not only out of respect for tradition, but also due to concerns about preserving the artifact. Removing the ribbon could slightly shift the coffin lid, allowing outside air to enter and causing oxidation. If that occurred, everything inside, from skeletal remains to burial artifacts, could suffer irreversible damage. For this reason, the decision was made not to open the coffin, waiting instead for technology to advance enough to examine the interior without disturbing its original structure. To this day, more than 10 years later, the golden coffin remains in a special storage facility, never opened. It has become a symbol of patience in archaeology, where even a single careless touch could forever destroy a 1,000-year-old piece of history. Speculation about its contents runs wild. Some believe it may hold the body of a Tang Dynasty princess, others a high-ranking official guarding imperial treasures, and a few suggest it could even be a sealed coffin containing an ancient curse. But so far, all of this remains theory. The truth still lies silent, wrapped in that dazzling gold, both magnificent and intimidating. Perhaps it is this very mystery that makes the golden coffin in Shanxi one of the most enigmatic treasures in Chinese archaeology. Who knows? When technology finally allows the coffin to be opened, we may discover either an invaluable treasure or a secret so shocking it makes humanity shudder. 447 characters on the stone. Stele that resolved the greatest misunderstanding about Qin Shi Huang. When it comes to ancient China, you've probably heard the name Qin Shi Huang. But for those unfamiliar, the name might sound strange, prompting the question, who exactly was Qin Shi Huang? To answer briefly, Qin Shi Huang is considered the first emperor of China. He is credited with conquering 6 rival states to unify the country, establishing an imperial system that lasted for over 2,000 years. Although he is often called the greatest emperor in history, opinions about him have always been divided. On one hand, people praise his vision and ability to govern, and they are grateful for his role in unifying the nation. On the other hand, he is often criticized for his brutality and bloodthirstiness. But was Qin Shi Huang truly the infamous tyrant that later generations have made him out to be? The answer began to emerge in 1921 when experts unearthed a Qin dynasty stone stele at an archaeological site on Longye Mountain in Shandong Province, China. This artifact, called the Longye stone stele, measures approximately 52 inches tall, 26 to 28 inches wide, and 14 inches thick, and it is inscribed with 447 characters. Notably, the stele was carved by high-ranking officials of the Qin court who were very familiar with Qin Shi Huang, making it a highly reliable historical reference. The Longye stele records Qin Shi Huang's unification of the country, the establishment of counties, and the creation of a unified legal system. It also includes a line reflecting the emperor's greatest aspiration. Now the emperor has pacified the 4 seas, built towns and villages, and the world is at peace. The phrase "the world is at peace" does not mean that he wished for his dynasty to rule forever. Rather, it shows that he genuinely desired peace and security for the people, ending the chaos that had plagued China during the Spring and Autumn period and the Warring States period, when war and bloodshed were nearly constant. Other inscriptions on the stele emphasize the importance of peace in Qin Shi Huang's reign, such as the world as one family, no need to raise arms and eradicate disasters, lay down the weapons. These passages reflect the emperor's desire for long-lasting peace, which also explains why he initiated the construction of the Great Wall to protect the country from invading Xiongnu nomads. Moreover, the Longye stele sheds new light on the infamous acts of cruelty historically attributed to Qin Shi Huang, namely the burning of books and burying of Confucian scholars. Historical and unofficial records claim that in 213 BCE, following the advice of Chancellor Li Si, the emperor ordered the destruction of books deemed harmful to the state and the execution of Confucian scholars by live burial. However, the inscriptions on the Longye stele suggest this is largely a misunderstanding. Qin Shi Huang did not order the destruction of all books. Only texts considered worthless or harmful were destroyed. Valuable works on medicine, agriculture, and animal husbandry were preserved. Similarly, the alleged live burial of Confucian scholars was in fact punishment for charlatans who deceived the emperor while he sought the elixir of immortality, not the execution of innocent scholars. Experts conclude that many of the stories portraying Qin Shi Huang as excessively cruel were exaggerated by later generations, though he was far from perfect. The emperor exploited labor to construct massive projects like his mausoleum and the Yipeng Palace, which caused resentment among the populace and limited the dynasty's stability to just 15 years. So, after reading this story, what do you think about China's first emperor? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The beautiful mummified saint, a body that has remained intact for over 100 years. Around the world, there have been many discoveries of bodies that remain remarkably preserved for hundreds, even thousands of years. In most cases, science can explain the phenomenon, thanks to icy conditions or sophisticated embalming techniques. Yet, there is one case that has left researchers stunned, standing at the fragile boundary between science and the divine. This is the incorrupt body of Saint Bernadette Soubirous, known as the beautiful mummified saint, even though she was never embalmed. Bernadette was born in 1844, the eldest daughter of a poor tailor's family in the town of Lourdes, southern France. From a young age, she was frail, frequently struggling with asthma and tuberculosis of the bones. Despite her physical weakness, she became one of the most famous figures in Christian history. In 1858, at just 14 years old, Bernadette claimed that she had seen the Virgin Mary appear in a grotto near the Gave River while gathering firewood. Initially, no one believed her, but within 5 months, Bernadette asserted that she had witnessed the Virgin Mary 18 times. Word spread rapidly, and thousands of people flocked to the grotto, prompting local authorities to ban gatherings and even threaten to imprison the young girl. Yet Bernadette stood firm, insisting that what she saw was real. Then a miracle occurred. A clear spring began to flow from the grotto, its waters said to heal the sick. News of the spring quickly spread across France, reaching Empress Eugénie, who later authorized the construction of the Sanctuary of Our Lady of Lourdes at the sacred site, a place that remains the largest Catholic pilgrimage site in the world. Bernadette later entered a convent, living a simple, devout life. She passed away in 1879 at age 35, after years of battling illness. Most people assumed her story had ended there, but nearly 35 years later, when the church prepared to canonize Bernadette, her tomb was opened, and those present were left speechless. Her body remained completely intact, as if she had just fallen asleep. Her face retained a healthy glow, her hands were soft, and her skin was elastic. There was no sign of decay, no foul odor, just slightly damp clothing and a few rusted metal objects. Surgeon Dr. Tourdon, who witnessed the event, recalled, "The saint's face was gentle, her hands folded on her chest, skin smooth, lips slightly parted, revealing pure white teeth, as if she were merely sleeping, not dead." Her tomb was opened 2 more times, in 1919 and 1925, and the same miracle occurred. Her body remained uncorrupted with no deformation. Experts in medicine, biology, and religion from around the world came to study her, yet no one could explain it. Bernadette's body was never embalmed, nor placed in any special environment. Other bodies buried at the same time had long since decayed, yet Bernadette remained gracefully beautiful, as if sleeping peacefully in faith. Today, her body is displayed in a glass coffin at Saint-Gildard Chapel in Lourdes. A thin layer of wax protects her face and hands, but her holy, serene beauty continues to move millions of pilgrims. It is believed that the miracle of the Virgin Mary preserved Bernadette in this state, a symbol of faith and purity. Science, despite all attempts, still cannot explain why a normally buried body could remain incorrupt for more than a century. Perhaps in a world governed by rules, some things transcend human reason, just like the pure smile of Saint Bernadette, the girl of Our Lady of Lourdes, whose immortal beauty of faith and holiness continues to awe humanity. The meditating monk's mummy, remaining intact after hundreds of years. In the Buddhist world, there are stories that seem almost legendary, where the human body appears to defy the laws of time. Centuries pass, yet the body remains remarkably preserved, sitting calmly in a meditative posture as if absorbed in deep meditation beyond the impermanence of life. These are called monk mummies, but for devout Buddhists, they are believed to be incorrupt bodies of enlightened masters, a testament to profound spiritual awakening where body and mind are in perfect harmony. One of the most astonishing cases is that of monk Wu Yunqing in China. He was a virtuous monk who dedicated his entire life to meditation and teaching Dharma. After his passing, his disciples performed a special burial ritual, placing his body in a ceramic coffin, carefully sealed and interred according to Buddhist rites. 17 years later, in December 2014, when archaeologists conducted an excavation, they could hardly believe their eyes. The monk's body was nearly fully intact, with only slight shrinkage due to dehydration. There were no signs of decomposition, no unusual odor, and most remarkable of all, his face retained a serene, peaceful expression as if he were in deep meditation. What perplexed scientists was that there was no trace of embalming or chemical preservation. Yet the body remained almost perfectly preserved after 17 years, a phenomenon that defies conventional explanation. Some suggest that the power of meditation and a profound spiritual state might have contributed to this unique preservation. But this mysterious phenomenon is not limited to China. In Songanokarkan Province, Mongolia, a monk's mummy was discovered in a lotus meditation posture, believed to be Dashi Dorjo Itagilov, a renowned 19th century master. Born in 1852, nearly 200 years later, his body remained intact, sitting in meditation with hands gently resting on his knees and a calm expression as if listening to the wind. Experts were astonished. The body showed no signs of decay, no rotting, and was only covered by a thin layer of cowhide. Locals believe he is not dead but in deep meditation, and that he will awaken when the world reaches a certain state. Although science has yet to explain this, the existence of this body continues to amaze both the Buddhist community and archaeologists alike. Another story is that of monk Fu Hao, who spent his life at Puzhou Temple in Fujian Province, China. Before passing at age 91, he expressed a wish to be preserved in a meditative posture as a way to continue his spiritual practice after death. Monks honored his wish, wrapping his body in charcoal, clay, and sandalwood and placing it in a stupa. When the protective layer was later opened, people were stunned. Fu Hao still sat in the lotus posture, his face gentle, eyes half closed, as if in meditation. Today, his body is coated with a layer of gold paint and has become a sacred symbol in the temple, attracting pilgrims from all over. Monks say that seeing his incorrupt body serves as a constant reminder of enlightenment, purity, and unwavering dedication to spiritual practice. From China to Mongolia, these meditating monk mummies continue to baffle scientists. As you can see, the ancient world truly left behind so many strange and mysterious things for future generations. And of course, the evidence lies in the mummies recently uncovered by archaeologists that we've just explored. What do you think about today's discoveries? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to give me a like and subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure to turn on notifications so you won't miss any exciting discoveries. Thank you, goodbye, and see you next time.